Michelle, we've actually hung out a ton of times already before.
Yeah.
We just got done filming the Monroe House together. We did St. Joseph's. And now I'm looking forward to getting back, because it's been a while. It's been like, what, 2-3 years since we've actually sat down and had some of these deep conversations.
Yeah, I've missed them.
Or for everyone watching, though, we're going to try and make this like count, because I remember whenever we would do these talks together, it would be after we were done filming, cameras were dead, the conversation got so good. And I'm like, oh, why are the cameras dead? So we're going to just jump right into it. One of the first topics is leadership. And it's funny because just last night at Madison Seminary, we were doing one of our flashlight tours, and after it was over, you know, we were kind of talking about all these topics, and some of the qualities of leadership came up. And this is a very big topic to me, because I've learned a lot of lessons over the course of my life. And you know how they say with charisma and leadership, it can't be taught. It's like you either have it or you don't. And I was actually talking about when I was growing up and some of the experiences I had. I remember, you know, I get it. A lot of people say, oh, you're pretty outgoing, you love talking to everybody. But I was very shy growing up, and I used to do a lot of observing. And I remember back in first grade, instead of playing with all the other kids at recess, I would sit and draw, but watch kids. And I learned at a very early age what I called alpha and betas. It were the kids, right, this gets interesting, it's deep. The kids that were automatically popular and the ones that would follow. And it was like, I remember studying this and I'm thinking, why is this happening? Why is, you know, person B following person A? What kind of traits do they have that they're emulating that, you know, they want? And the one thing I have learned over time about successful leadership is to push aside ego and all these things and stay humble, but also inspire as you go. And learning, I'm gonna ask you to jump in here in a second, because you are right on target with this. The one thing I've learned is if you find people, you empower them. Okay, that's what a good leader does. I think everyone has value at some aspect. You know, you're not gonna have a bunch of people that are just always on top of their game, but if you really study someone, you say, okay, you might be weak here, but I want to empower you to strengthen this quality you have. And even at Madison Seminary, in building the crew that I have there, everybody is good at something, and it creates this diversity. But a good leader will see that and know where to put everyone and keep it kind of in line. Just keep it moving and let everyone be empowered and do their thing. And everything you've done with Gather and the whole following you've built, I've seen how people gravitate towards you. You have a natural charisma. What are some of the things you can take for people listening? What would be, and I get it's one of the things, like it's hard to teach charisma, but for anyone watching, if you were going to learn it, I hope you take some lessons here, because this is going to be genuine truth. What are some of your takes on leadership and charisma?
Well, I mean, one of the best things is to think about like what a bad leader does is someone who thinks that being in charge means that everybody's underneath them. And you've already hit on what a good leader does is what you're doing is you're lifting people up to your level. You're not trying to stand on top of them or lord things over. Like it may look, because you're the one where the directions are coming from, it may look like you're in charge. But what you're actually doing, a good leader is in service to the people who are following them. And so what your job as a leader is to identify each person's strengths and their weaknesses, not to be dishonest about them, to be brutally honest about it.
That's how you grow from it, though. Exactly. It's not to be mean or brutal.
Now, sometimes you may not be able to have those conversations with people for like, you know, dude, you suck at this thing, but you're great at this thing. But you need to be aware that, like, you know, Bob is really, really great if you give him a project and very explicit directions. But if you give him a project and expect him to be able to carry it out without explicit instructions, he's just going to fumble and waste time. Whereas you've got Sally, who you can just kind of go, I kind of want this thing like this, sort of. And Sally's like, I totally know what you're doing. And she'll come up with a better idea than you ever could have and just run with it. You don't want to give Sally Bob's job, because Sally will be unhappy and waste time. And you don't want to give Bob, it's all about managing people. It's all about being honest with yourself and with them.
And what you are saying, it's not like you're just saying this and you haven't practiced this. There was a while back, we both had a mutual person that we knew, a mutual friend, and I was trying to figure out how to coexist with this person. And you actually gave me tips. You said, listen, this was, I'm going to keep it completely classified who we're talking about, But it was the fact that you said, hey, these are some weaknesses, it's not gonna go well, you're gonna kind of, butt heads here, but these are the qualities they're good at, and if you give them these tasks, they're going to succeed. And it was a way to kind of coexist. And you're exactly right, that's what you have to do and find in people. And also the delivery is very important. You're right, when you started talking about people making, the leader making everyone feel like they're under them, Charlie, it's poor delivery, always feeling like you're king of everything, but even just the simple words of coming up and trying to, not making a conflict out of it. There was an incident recently where I came across someone who was dyslexic, right? And I kind of felt bad. There was something going on, something was being written, and one of my mutual friends that I know kind of looked at this paper and said, oh, look at this mistake here and all this. And I'm thinking, okay, we were in a giant setting, right? A lot of people. This isn't how you build someone up. This is very important for people listening, okay? There are ways to address this. There are natural flaws in everyone. It's not, you should never bring that into a public light because it almost felt like that person was just one up someone.
Well, you don't want to shame somebody.
Exactly, the public shaming, but some people think that the public shaming powers them up, like they just leveled up in a video game.
Well, and it doesn't do discipline, like that's not the way you discipline anybody at all. Like ideally, I mean, sometimes as a leader, you're going to have to do some sort of disciplinary action. Like you do need a certain amount of structure. There needs to be consequences for certain infractions. And you also need to be clear for like what is a line too far. Like you can't punish somebody for something without having told them that that was a rule to be broken. Like you can't be arbitrary about it.
You can't be mad without it being set as a guide, yes. There's something I was thinking, and there are a lot of good people. I've surrounded myself with good people, as have you. For the last, how long has it been now? The last 8 years. When I started ghost hunting, but it was my exit strategy.
Yeah.
I was working in the hotel business, and I remember working constantly 24 hours, it felt like almost straight getting this. And you know what I said to myself? I said, if I can climb out of this hole of just mere existence, if I can get out of this and I can build something great, it was almost like climbing out of a hole. I said, if I can climb out of this hole and I succeed, I want to look back down at anyone else that needs to come up with me and take them up as well. But it doesn't mean there should be no pride or anything like that, just because when I look at this, like, okay, I may have been the one who bought Madison Seminary, but I'll be the last person to walk in the room like, I'm the owner of this building. It takes an army to build something great. And by pulling people up and helping you, that was the whole goal to begin with. And look what's coming from that, But I use that concept of like pulling people up, I don't want to step on people's backs to get somewhere, but help as many people as you can. There are so many talented people out there, they just have to be harnessed the right way.
Yeah. No, you give people direction, you give them something to believe in. And even if you don't have charisma, what I found works really, really well, and it should be a no-brainer. Just be genuine. Don't try to like create some persona that isn't you. Just be you. Share things about yourself that humanize you. Don't overshare. Like have a certain sense of boundaries. Understand that as a leader, sometimes you can't always be everybody's friend. And when you are like a friend with the people who are working for you, you have to be clear on where the boundaries are. So like if that person is doing something that you are going to have to then have a conversation with them, go like, okay, look, friendship aside, this is the goal, this is the job, this is where things aren't coming together right. And my other rule is I never give criticism or complaint without a solution. You don't say, hey, you're screwing this up, without saying, here's how you can do better.
Exactly.
And finally, the other thing for that is I always lead with the compliment. I lead with something that builds some, if I've got a difficult thing to talk to somebody about, I make a point of letting them know what they're doing right first. And then I don't frame it as, you suck. It's not just, you're doing good with this, and here's this thing that maybe needs a little work. Like I try to soften it. I mean, there are some times where soft won't work. Like there are some people where subtlety doesn't work, where hinting at it doesn't work, where you really do have to be a 2x4 and go like, dude, seriously,
and be as blunt blunt as possible.
I say this with love, but please stop doing that.
Please just take the words in that we're saying. Sometimes, like I said, coming back to what I said in the beginning, this is hard you can't take it from a book. The next topic is teamwork. And again, this is funny on these topics because we were just talking about this on the car ride over, is that if you want a very successful structure, you need to have a team that is like ironclad. And I always go back to ancient Sparta, the phalanx, and how can 300 Spartans take on countless Persians, right? And when you look, for anyone that doesn't know this, their battle formation was the phalanx, where they would lock their shields together. By doing that, you have a solid wall. Although the one problem with the phalanx is if one fell, that would break the entire line, okay? And I talk about this with teamwork. We all have to be at that same level, that same speed. One kink in the armor could take it down. So when I talk about teamwork, we move as one unit. And that's just something I say with everything we do and with what we're building. How would you gauge teamwork?
Well, actually what I'm going to riff off of that first is how do you build that kind of teamwork? And one of the main things is camaraderie.
Yes.
Is not just we are doing a job together, but we are also people who have fun together. We are people who are comfortable enough to laugh together. We are people who are comfortable enough to cry on one another's shoulders if we have to, who will hold one another up. So like there needs to be more than just the job. Because we've all had jobs where all you're doing is you're going there, you're a cog in a wheel, nobody gives a crap about you, and you know it.
Yes.
And so you don't care. But if everyone is caring for everybody else, then you end up with a synergy in that group. Like people who can then anticipate what your needs are before you've even spoken them. And for a phalanx, for the kind of unit, like a moving turtle of shields,
yes,
everybody has to be able to move together, anticipate one another, and work so closely in tandem that you only get that from people who have been in the field and eaten and slept and shit with one another, like all
everything.
of it. All good, bad, and ugly, everything together. Now, we're not talking like, drink the Kool-Aid and have a cult, but
There's no Jim Jones stuff.
Certainly what you want is people who can have fun together. I know for mine, one of the things, the various groups that I work with and lead, a big key thing for us is that we sometimes, we play games together. We do something with our downtime and we do it together.
Well, that's also separating the work and the fun. If you can do that all together, because you're right, when it's just the work, it's just like a normal jog, it feels like a cog, but it's in a sense, and I hate to use the word family because people like Jim Jones have ruined that. Charles Manson, rest in peace, just kidding. But they use the word family, but it really is that. Sometimes people that are not even your blood are even closer than family, and it creates that bond.
There's a Latin word, communitas, which it's just a community, but it's that bond, it's that connection that you get from all going together to go do a thing together and coming back. But it's not just the object of the quest, it's the journey itself, it's the band of brothers.
I think when you share so many unique experiences that tie you, when you share those experiences, it only strengthens that brotherhood.
Yeah.
You just look back and you're like, we have battled all these things, where a complete stranger doesn't have that kind of bond because they haven't been in the trenches with you.
What also makes the work so much easier, because while you're working, you can talk about the play. You can talk about, and you can make the work also be more meaningful, because at the end of the day, you're doing it for one another.
Talking about energy, that's been a topic that's been floating around tons of times. And I have no abilities whatsoever. I consider myself a grunt. But sometimes I can just feel, and this sounds weird to even just say that, but I can feel the energy of an environment. You walk in, like you were talking about when you got the Inspiration House. It felt weird at first, I think Illyria was telling me it took you how many hours to kind of do a little bit of a cleansing? Yeah,
to like really kind of dig through everything,
People leave their energy. There's always a signature. And the way I take it, there's two ways, and this is the funny way, is that if you live in a dirty environment, like in your house, and you got dirty dishes, but it's so funny how you just done the dishes and keep everything organized, you have manipulated that energy to feel good. So the other part is, though, by surrounding yourself with good people that share that positive energy, you can change the space. Moving back to Madison Seminary, I have been very particular about the people that are coming in. If you let somebody in that has negativity, that my life sucks, it's terrible all the time, we don't realize that can jump. I don't know for any Spider-Man fans, it's like the Venom suit. It can jump. You don't realize when that negativity is around you, suddenly you start reciprocating that negative activity, or that negative behavior,
But especially through a tight-knit group, you're all bouncing off of one another.
It can spread like a virus very quickly.
It's something that I call it an empathic feedback loop. You don't have to be an empath to experience it. Like bad moods, like people have experienced it at the office or something. You've got that one, melancholy Mary or grumpy Gus who's over in the corner, and like when they show up, the mood just drops. And
you're right. And jumping back to leadership, if you are someone in a position that a lot of people look up to, your behavior is extremely important because that can reciprocate very quickly. You know, if you see your leaders down in all this and all of a sudden, you know, you can see attitudes change very quickly. So those are two, I guess, intangible ways to change the tangible.
Yeah. There's a quote that just reminded me of, bravery is being the only one who knows you are afraid. There is a hard point of like, who do you rely on? And usually you've got like at least one person who like gets all your dark secrets, all your like, you know, 3 a.m. confessions of like, this is really, really hard. But, you know, when game is on, you've got to be there even if you're not.
Yes.
And if you absolutely can't, you need to find a way to pass the ball to somebody else. You should not try to force yourself because it's just going to spill down to everybody.
I'm going to let you take this one first. Overcoming fear. Actually, in the paranormal, I guess, if you relate the two, let's see where this goes, down the rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, the first thing is everybody always asks me, like, what was the thing that you were doing when you were the most afraid? Like, what scared you the most in the paranormal thing? And for me, it's not a matter, I don't do it because it scares me. I do it because it scares other people. And I've always been the person to run into the darkness, not out of it. And I think part of that comes from, I mentioned this earlier, I was an early heart patient. So I went into cardiac arrest when I was 6 months old, which is how they found that I had a ventricular septal defect. So basically I had a 3-chambered heart, which in the early 70s was a big bad thing because they didn't have heart-lung machines for anybody under a certain weight. And I was nowhere near that for when I absolutely needed this stuff. So I lived on stopgap surgeries and digitalis and stuff until I was 4.5 and they could do the final surgery. And my life expectancy was 5 years old. I would not live past 5. And my family, I was a very precocious kid, so the family was really clear about what was going on. And my mom did this cool thing that you would never be able to do now with laws and insurance. So the month or so leading up to my surgery, which happened in the summer, she took me on kind of like a Make-A-Wish thing. So I got to do all the things that I wanted to do, like ride roller coasters. They let me ride the Big Dipper at Juggle over and over and over again. As a 4.5-year-old heart patient, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Things were a little different back then, I guess.
They were very different back then. But being able to just, the first thing is knowing you don't have forever. Nobody has forever. So if you hesitate, you might lose an opportunity. If you hesitate because something scares you, you will lose an opportunity. Even if that opportunity is to grow beyond that initial hesitation, to grow beyond what scares you. If you don't face the fear, if you don't really understand it and confront it head on, you're always going to have it hanging over your head.
There was a talk that David Wooliver and I had when we talk about even just how we are trying to do things in the field, is that growth comes with discomfort. Mm-hmm. There is no growth without that. If you are comfortable, you're not growing. It's just that simple. And to tie into this, with overcoming the fear, I think with a lot of people, it's not that it's a generic answer, but it seems to be across the board that a lot of people want to know what happens after death.
Yeah.
A lot of people, there are two kinds of it. The ones that may believe in religion or whatnot, but that's their comfort. So when they do die, I think this is going to happen. But there are other ones taking a scientific method saying, maybe I want to know. Maybe I am curious. Because at the end of the day, we all will be sitting on a deathbed. We will probably be sitting there, and if we are conscious, we are watching our last final minutes go down. We may actually know our final moments. And it would be nice after a lifetime of research to have that confident answer and say, you know what? I might come back. Reincarnation may be real. I believe we've had long talks about reincarnation.
Yeah, talk about Spartans.
Yeah. So, and if reincarnation is real, I love life enough, I will come back if I have the choice. Immediately, please press the button, even if I have to be a dog one time or something. Just get me back here in the hot seat. But yes, I think overcoming the fear, there's, just like we said, there's a lot of things.
One of the big sources of fear is the unknown. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how to do accurate threat assessment for what might be dangerous on the other side of that door that you're going to open. And the only way to combat what is unknown is to learn. And that's really the thing. The way to face your fear is to become educated. And many times the way to become educated is to experience it and judge for yourself. And that definitely means sometimes stepping through the door to the other side of your comfort zone and just walking into it. Okay, so since I got you in the hot seat, everybody asks me this. I never get to ask anyone. What experience in your paranormal career, what pushed you over the edge? What was too much? What actually like made you maybe afraid?
All right. My mind, there's so many things that could race by.
Yeah.
The House of Wills. This was that we had an incident that happened with Becca. And something happened. I can't even to this day explain what really happened. If possession was real, I think this was happening.
Okay.
And you know why it scared me? And you are directly linked to this story. Becca had said, if I ever get stuck in a trance or something's happening, my eyes are rolling back, you got two options. You can throw cold water in my face, or you can call Michelle. Mm-hmm. Now I'm in East Cleveland. I don't even know if I have reception in this frickin' building. So I'm like, I don't know if I can call you. And there's no running water to this building. So I have no solution to what's going on. And I just remember this absolute fear. It was the first time in my entire career of this field that I felt I had no control.
Yeah.
That's the fear, no control. I cannot control the situation. Something is attacking someone that I can't stop them. Mm-hmm. That would be the moment where I would have to sit back and assess this again. It's not a game. I think a lot of us go in there until we get bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not gonna happen to me, or everyone's making up their stories of how they've been bit. But until you've been bit like that, that was a moment where I wasn't going to go as headstrong and try and smash, through things. Now it's strategic logistics.
No, I think that's one reason why ghosts end up being so scary for most people is, you can't punch them in the nose to get them to back off. You can't shoot them with a gun. Mm-hmm. And so you have no control in a situation if they actually can hurt you. Like it feels completely, what do you do?
What about yourself though?
Wow.
I know there's going to be a lot of experiences.
Well, okay. I'm cut from a different type of cloth because I grew up with really weird stuff and some really extreme stuff. So I will say that I have, no joke, been in a situation where someone was either multiple personality or being possessed, and it is my belief that they are being possessed not by a demon, but by something that was worse, which was just something that was insane, like psychotic. And at the point where this person had it come over them, because I was helping them work through dealing with, they also were armed. And this thing didn't like me. So I ended up staring down the barrel of a weapon with someone who was being ridden by something that really wanted to end me. And I had, a couple of options of like, what do I do in this situation? And like, again, and a lot of that comes down to like, what have you lived through before? Like what... And I'm not afraid to die. I've already dealt with that. Like, so I'm just like, okay, well, how do I make the situation not actually go to a point where the police are going to be called, or an ambulance, or a coroner? And the thing about charisma that I like is if I can't talk my way out of something, it's probably going to go badly.
That is exactly right. That is the realest thing you're going to hear right now. Yes.
And I managed, I as long as I kept my cool, I was able to talk the thing down and get my friend back, as opposed to the thing that was, but that was probably the most real situation I've been in. Because it was no one else home, it was just me, and bad, very bad.